Set up what you've been doing, in a quick snapshot and where we're going to go with this episode.
Okay, well, I think the biggest concern is dealing with the water, right? Trying to do everything we can to prevent as much water as possible from entering the structure. And so our goal was to try to circumvent any issues that we could identify on the outside of the home, and then also look for solutions that could help ensure that on the inside.
When you talk about the gutters and you install the gutters, you also do roofs. Let's start right at the top because the roof and that feeding into the gutters, and we've had this all redone at this house. I mean, I knew that that was a point where we needed a pinch point where we need to get that going. Can you talk about the roof, the integration of the roof and the gutters and the design of that? We'll run out of time in this segment. We'll probably have to finish this thread when we come back, but that's an important piece, right? With the roof feeding into the gutters and different size of the gutters and the gutter guards and all of these things that go into downspouts, right? Can you please
Yeah.
just start at the top and work your way down?
Absolutely. Well, it started with the roof. Generally, most of them are asphalt shingles, right? And so typically when you install a roof, there's an overhang when you get to the edge of the roof, where it goes into the gutter. And sometimes, if it's like a new roofer or something of that nature, they might wind up extending those shingles too far over into the gutter. So what winds up happening is if you have a steep pitch on your roof, as the water is traveling down the roof to enter into the eave trough, is moving at a speed that may actually overshoot the gutter. So especially under heavy rain conditions. So with the roof, you really want to make sure that it's only overhanging that drip edge maybe by a half an inch, so it provides the maximum space for that water to enter into the eave trough. And so by focusing and making sure that that's consistent all the way around, you have the greatest chance of allowing your eave troughs to do the job that they're designed for.
Okay, Rob. So you kind of gave that. That was good. I didn't, I never even thought about the overhang of the shingles into the eaves troughs. I bet you see all kinds of stuff. And if you don't have a gutter guard,
Mhm.
or well, go ahead, tell the story like we're talking about with water just, you know, water falling, cascading out of your gutter instead of rolling through the gutter if it's full of stuff or whatever. Go ahead, please. How much can that affect our problem down in the basement?
It can be substantial, actually. It actually makes me think of a situation I had a few years ago. A customer had his home built, and it's probably I'm guessing about 10 years old or something of that nature. And he just had your standard 3-inch gutters, residential gutters. And the slope of his roof it wasn't, I think it was probably like a 612 or something. So it was pitched, but not super bad. Uh, However, it was a large roof area, so it collects a lot of water. Um, and he was complaining that he was getting water down in the basement as well, and he wanted to see about getting it repaired. But I told him before he did that, he really needed to figure out what was causing that, and he just assumed that it was he had an egress window put in. So he was thinking, oh, well, maybe it's just water that's, going into there. And so what we realized, we got a water hose and just sprayed as much water as we could, like into the gutter and then on the roof at the same time to try and fill that eave trough as much as possible to see how the water was interacting. And basically what was happening is over time, the shingles can begin to curl up a little bit at the edge, especially right where it meets the drip edge. And so it almost created a small ramp. And so as the water was coming down and where it should meet with the gutter and go into the gutter, it actually was kind of ramping and jumping over it and then collapsing down to the egress window. And so he put a cover over the egress thinking that that would solve the problem. And I told him that no, because instead of the water exiting the eave trough at either end, as it was designed to, it was actually exiting the middle of the gutter. So it was just basically pouring water on top of it. And ultimately, what we did to solve that problem was to readjust the levelness of the gutter so that the water could move faster to the exit point, and then also put a larger eave trough on there. So we moved that up just like you have at your home to a 4-inch. That way, it's able to collect as much water, and it gives them a little bit more distance from the face of the house to capture as much water as possible.
Talk about that a little bit. Mold mitigation. That might be a little piece of this thing before we get into the inside
Uh, yeah.
repair.
Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely, if you have an existing water issue, there's likely to, be some forms of mold or mildew trapped behind the wall, especially if it was done properly. So what I do when I encounter those situations, like we do a lot of abatement for, water damage or what have you. But when we remove the drywall, whether we're just removing, the bottom couple of feet or the whole thing, is I take a product called Kills, right? It's an oil-based primer. And then what I do is I spray the whole bottom, like I think it's about 14 inches. So from the floor up about 14 inches on the studs. And what that does is it puts a mold resistant barrier across all of that. So by the time you put the new drywall back up on and you close it up, it prevents any moisture that might have soaked into the concrete or what have you to cause, mold or mildew buildup, as well as any future water that may come in. It will help give you enough time to abate that before it creates significant problems.
Talk about slope and drainage that way too, please.
Sure. Well, depending on where you are, the soil composition may absorb faster than in other situations, right? And so, given those situations where it's a lot of clay and things of that nature, water tends to stay on the surface of the ground longer. And so, it's really, really important to ensure that you have, I would say maybe a 1 foot slope away from the house over maybe a 4 foot area. That it gives you a pretty decent transition for the water. So if water is dumping down from your gutter and not traveling through the downspout and away from the house like it's supposed to, at least it will hit a point where it is not a bowl where the water can just stand. It still has a chance to run away. And what a lot of people don't do is they don't have a lot of vegetation around the house because of, oh, it may affect the foundation and things, which depending on the types of vegetation you choose, it can. But what you also have to remember is what the vegetation's job is to absorb a lot of the moisture around your house. So if you get rid of plants that use a lot of water, then you'll have a lot more water that will remain on the property. And so it's important to not only make sure that it's sloped away properly, but to make sure that your gutters and the discharge ends of your downspouts are allowing the water to move away from the property, and ideally in areas that will be sloping away from the foundation.
Let me ask you a question before we get into the inside work that you guys are doing, about keeping those drains and getting a roto-rooter service to come in and clean that main drain occasionally. We have giant trees in this neighborhood, everybody. I mean, this house is built in 1950, as I said. So, Rob, what's your opinion on that? It's because it's not that inexpensive. It can be, $300-400 to have the roto-rooter professional come out and take care of business with their machine.
Right.
What's your feeling on that?
Well, certainly, if you're in an area that's prone to roots, plugging your drains or your drain lines anyway, that's definitely a wise thing to do. The frequency of it, it makes sense why you would want to do it maybe every year, especially if you have heavy roots. Um, but the one thing that I would caution, depending on the type of pipes that you have, right? Like if it's a new house versus an older home, the material composition of the pipes are different. And what you could potentially run into through frequent routing of the pipes is damaging those pipes. So if you have like clay tiles or cast iron that is already degraded pretty bad, in some cases you might create a problem by doing it too frequently. So I would encourage you to do it as needed. So if you notice that your drains are slowing down or you're getting a little water backup or something like that, and it's not like a traditional, kitchen sink plug or toilet plug kind of scenario, then certainly. But doing it kind of routinely, if you will, you may create a situation over time doing that.
Go ahead, Rob. How do you want people to get a hold of you?
Well, I'm refired again because you got me pumped up, Tom. Well,
That's what I do, man.
that's right. That's right. The easiest way to get a hold of me, considering that I do have multiple ventures, they're all pretty much under the same phone number threshold. So my phone number is 517-204-9022. And you can reach me directly in regards to construction, in regards to home inspection, in regards to, as Tom mentioned, all sports athletic apparel, because I'm also an inventor and have created a pretty what I like to say a cool hood, as you can see, kind
Very,
of here behind
very
me.
cool.
Um, as well as we're online, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, we're pretty much on all of the social networks. But you can find me Robert Helm. COO is pretty much what I'm under on all of those different platforms, or my company specific Quality Vision Construction, or All Sports Athletic Apparel.
Go ahead. I mean, because we're getting to the inside stuff. You had to tear that whole structure out to
Right.
get to the bottom of it. And as you started getting your estimates for the first vision to rebuild this bathroom, you take it from there because you know the story better than I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, initially we had a concept that we thought would work under the guise of where we thought everything was situated based on where your shower was, where your toilet was, and where your sink was. However, with the wall still in place and the various platforms that were throughout the bathroom, we couldn't really distinguish why those were there until we got them taken out. And so once we took them out, we realized that our initial idea that we wanted to go with wasn't going to be feasible because there were some code violations, you know. And so after realizing that, we started to call a couple of different contractors out to try to get an idea of what possible solutions that we had before we came back to try to explain it to you. And in the course of that, we found that there was several different, actually we call five. I don't generally call five contractors. I usually do two or three. But I wind up calling out five different contractors to try to get an idea because everyone's price was way outside of what our budget was, as well as what we thought was necessary to solve the problems that we were dealing with. And you know, typically when you're dealing with contractors, some contractors are like myself who want to educate you and give you all of the options of what you can do and then allow you to, you know, make that decision. Then you have other contractors who make that decision for you and they just tell you, you got to do this and this and this and this. And, you know, unfortunately for me, I don't operate that way because I think it's more important for you to have clarity and I to have clarity of what your expectations are. So that way we can both walk away from this project, you know, happy, if you will.
Talk about you connecting with the young people and all sports and how it all ties together and why people should have some, side action going on, keeping you fresh, keeps your life active. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, well, you know, I think it really speaks to the whole refirement idea of Mr. Tom Mott as Tom Matt, excuse me. Simply because working with younger people, sometimes it exposes you to things in a different perspective than what you might see through your experience, you know. And that introduction that you provided, it gave me a kind of an opportunity to kind of see into his world, see where his interests are, and knowing that he's interested in real estate and knowing that he's interested into apparel, those are areas that I'm currently in that I'm excited about. And you know, the more that I have to opportunity, I should say, I have to network with other people who are like-minded. I think that's great. So, you know, having some experience and being able to share that with someone who is up and coming, I think is that's what we all need, kind of a mentorship. So,
What's
sure.
happening with all sports now? You've got a lot going on with all sports. We've talked about in previous episodes, Rob, what is all sports, but give us a quick snapshot. We got 2 minutes to go before we wrap this thing. Tell everybody about it. Why do they need to know about this? What is it?
Well, all sports headgear and all sports athletic apparel is basically my brainchild. It's a product that I invented for the purpose of, you know, being able to stay warm or stay cool as you need to when you're playing sports or involved in fitness activities. It morphed into something way more than that because it's a casual item that you can wear as a traditional garment. You can wear it as an accessory item. You know, I wear mine with my bathrobe sometimes in the morning when it's cold so I can stay warm. So it's really a hoodie designed with pockets and with a flap in the hood so that you know any gender or regardless of how long your hair is, whatever the case might be, it provides the flexibility to use that. And what I would like to just note, because this is something that I haven't really spoken on much since the pandemic, but what one of the things that the All Sports was kind of transitioned into was what we would call like a health towel because it has the ability for you to store hot packs or cold packs in it, which can directly offset fevers or, you know, help you in terms of chills and, you know, things of that nature. So you can use it for, you know, that functional side or a fashionable side. So we like to kind of refer to it as a fitness, fashion, fun head top.
Takeaway, man. I need a 30-second takeaway from this episode. Water, water everywhere. We'll come back. We'll revisit this project. But what would you like your takeaway to be?
My takeaway to homeowners out there is take time to observe your home and its water conditions during any possible opportunity, hopefully during a good storm where you can go out there with your raincoat on and really observe what is happening.
The whole point of this episode and the episodes of the DIY with Rob Helm Quality Vision Construction, is to save you money. Now, this problem that we've had at our home for ever since we bought this place 4 years ago has been a random thing that has just been on my mind forever. I've known that I've needed to take care of this problem, and we're finally getting it done. Is it costing some money? Yes. But do I want to come back after a trip to a basement full of mold and water and damaged the whole basement because the basement's all finished? So if you have these types of issues, if you need an inspector, Rob's the guy to go to. These all of our sponsors, please support our sponsors because they help us help you. And so Rob Helm's a great, great resource for everybody out there. And with that, I'm going to close this bad boy because I got to do some production work. But until next time, I'm Papa Tom. You've been listening to the Tom Matt Show or watching the Tom Matt Show. However you're getting this, it's growing on YouTube. Remember, TomMattShow.com is where everything's located. We are on every one of the big providers on the podcast. So just go out there, click those blue buttons, and away you go. Until next time, everybody. Love y'all. Peace out. Have a great day.